I went through something I don't wish upon anybody, and I'm still trying to figure it out. How could I have ended up in a cult where I was sex trafficked or involved in crimes that could have put me in prison? I'm trying to figure out what happened versus what I wanted to believe happened.
For 10 years, Allison Mack was a familiar face on television, playing the bright and resourceful Chloe Sullivan on the hit superhero show Smallville. She was the best friend, the intrepid journalist, the moral compass, a character audiences loved and a role that defined her career. But when the show ended, the story of Allison Mack took a dark and disturbing turn, one that played out not on a soundstage but in a federal courtroom. It was a story of manipulation, abuse, and a secret society that promised empowerment but delivered something far more sinister. This isn't a story about a character. It's about the woman behind the role, her rise to fame, the shocking truth of her involvement in a dangerous cult, and the long road that ultimately led her to prison. This is the complete story of how Allison Mack went from a beloved TV show actor to one of the top recruiters in the NXIVM cult. Allison Mack was born on July 29, 1982 in Preetz, West Germany. Her father was an opera singer, and her mother was a teacher and bookkeeper. While her birthplace might sound exotic, her family was American, and they moved to California when she was just 2 years old. Like many kids in Hollywood, Allison got her start in the industry at a very young age. She began acting in commercials at 4 and was modeling by the time she was 7. Her early career was a pretty typical path for a child actor. She had small roles in films like Camp Nowhere and a television series called Evening Shade. She had a few more notable parts too. You might remember her from an episode of Seventh Heaven, where she played a teenager named Nicole. She also co-starred in a short-lived TV series called Opposite in 2000. It wasn't a huge hit, but it kept her working. These roles were setting the stage for what was to come, preparing her for the part that would ultimately define her public identity. When Allison Mack was 18, she got the audition that would change her life. She was cast as Chloe Sullivan in a new show called Smallville. The show was about a young Clark Kent before he became Superman, and the character of Chloe was an original creation, a proto-Lois Lane who ran the school newspaper, The Torch. She was Clark's best friend, a smart and witty character who was always on the outside looking in, the perfect role for an actress like Mack to make her mark. Mack played the character for 10 seasons, and the role made her a television star. What made Chloe so popular wasn't just her witty one-liners, but the heart and intelligence Mack brought to the character. Fans connected with Chloe's emotional depth and saw her as the show's moral center. She was loyal and a fiercely dedicated journalist, always searching for the truth. Mack's performance earned her multiple award nominations and wins, including 2 Teen Choice Awards for Best Sidekick. She became so central to the show's success that she even starred in 2 web series spin-offs, The Smallville, Chloe Chronicles. For many fans, Mack was one of the best parts of the show. But as the series came to an end in 2011, Allison Mack's story was just beginning, and it would take her down a path no one, especially her fans, could have ever predicted. With Smallville finished, Allison Mack continued to act, though her roles became less frequent. She had a recurring part in the sitcom Wilfred for a few seasons and guest starred in shows like The Following and American Odyssey. She even did some voice work. But her career never quite reached the heights of her Smallville fame again. Around this time, something else was happening in Mack's life, something far more significant than any audition or role. Back in 2006, while Smallville was still going strong, she was introduced to a self-help group called NXIVM. It was through her Smallville co-star, Kristen Kruk, who had attended a jeunesse workshop, a women's movement associated with NXIVM. Kruk would later leave the organization and state she was unaware of any illegal activity, expressing her horror at the later revelations. But for Mack, this initial introduction would lead to a deep and ultimately destructive involvement. After Smallville wrapped, she doubled down on her commitment to NXIVM, moving from Los Angeles to Clifton Park, New York, to be closer to the group's headquarters in Albany. She became a dedicated follower and eventually rose through the ranks of the organization. To the outside world, she might have seemed to be searching for a new purpose after a decade on a hit show. But in reality, she was stepping into a world of manipulation and control, a world that would soon reveal its dark and sinister core. NXIVM on the surface presented itself as a company offering self-help and professional development seminars. But behind the expensive workshops and motivational slogans, it was something much darker, a cult led by Keith Raniere. Raniere exerted immense control over his followers, and Allison Mack became one of his most devoted and influential disciples. She wasn't just a member, she was a key player. Mack actively recruited new people into NXIVM, particularly within the acting community.
The format that the Genestracks offers with the men and the women, and then this consolidated, very intense structure where you are just diving into yourself and understanding how you relate to other people, helped me to reveal all of these areas of insecurity, areas of just really basic confusion, or lack of attention, like things that I had just never thought about or looked at in myself.
She even co-created a program called The Source, specifically designed to attract actors. Using her celebrity status, she became a powerful tool for Raniere, lending a veneer of legitimacy to the organization. She tried to recruit other well-known actresses like Emma Watson, showcasing her active role in expanding NXIVM's reach.
And I remember we just kind of go, and I didn't even know about this NXIVM or anything. At this point, I remember on set once, she came and she's like, hey, you should take this class, it's really cool, and blah, blah. And I remember I said to Tom, sounds like a cult, I don't know. And we kind of laughed, but we never thought, oh, it's like, I'm sure it's like people are looking for things. We never did it. But after that, we never really heard about it. That was what she was doing, and I never really thought about it.
But the most disturbing aspect of Mack's involvement was her role in a secret subgroup within NXIVM called Dominus Obsequious Sororium, or DOS. This was presented to women as an exclusive sorority focused on female empowerment. In reality, it was a master-slave system with Keith Raniere at the very top and Mack as his direct subordinate, first-line master. Mack was instrumental in recruiting women into DOS. She allegedly misrepresented the true nature of the group, concealing Raniere's leadership and the coercive control that was at its heart.
Sad for her, but also hurt that she came for me too.
So were you close to doing it, you think?
I wasn't not. She invited me. It was that weekend. I just couldn't afford it. And I wasn't close with Allison, so I struggled with my feelings about it because I had always wanted to get to know her when we were shooting. Yeah, and then the one time she did reach out to me years after Smallville was for that, so it was kind of a weird, I don't know.
And was it a big sell? Was it like a...
No, it was a very soft sell. In terms of, it's just, you come join us, and you have books, and it's a women's group, and it's this much money,
and you thought about it?
I thought about it. I also thought it sounded odd. I was like, there's something weird here, because she's never talked to me before.
As a prerequisite for joining, women were forced to provide collateral, deeply personal and compromising information including personal photos that could be used against them if they tried to leave or reveal DOS's existence. And then there was the branding. In a deeply disturbing ritual, women in DOS were branded with a symbol that was an amalgamation of Keith Raniere and Allison Mack's initials. This was done with a hot cauterizing pen, and Mack reportedly told recruits that the brand symbolized elements like air, earth, fire, and water, deliberately hiding its true meaning.
That window is where it happened. I was the first woman in my group of slaves to be branded. The smell that came from the cauterizing pen burning my flesh was so intense that it filled up the entire townhouse.
According to reports, Mack even claimed that the idea for the branding was hers, wanting something more meaningful than a tattoo. A chilling recording later surfaced of Raniere asking Mack if the person being branded should have no clothes and be held down like a sacrifice.
The person who's being branded should be completely nude and sort of held to the table like a, sort of almost like a sacrifice. I don't know if that's a feeling of submission, You'd also, of course, videoing it from different angles or whatever gives collateral, a more vulnerable position type of a thing. Back, legs slightly for legs spread straight, like feet being held to the side of the table, hands probably above the head being held, almost like tied down, like a sacrificial whatever.
Within DOS, Mack allegedly enforced strict rules on her slaves, controlling their diets, sleep, and even who they could communicate with. It was alleged that she, directly or indirectly, required her recruits to have intimate relations with Raniere. This wasn't the story of an actress who simply got caught up in a self-help fad. This was the story of someone who became deeply entrenched in a system of abuse and control, actively participating in the exploitation of other women. The disturbing secrets of NXIVM couldn't stay hidden forever. As more former members bravely came forward, the truth began to unravel. In 2017, the New York Times published a bombshell expose detailing the abuses within the organization, including the existence of DOS and the branding of women. This ignited a firestorm of public attention and triggered a federal investigation. In April 2018, the FBI arrested Keith Raniere in Mexico. Just weeks later, Allison Mack was arrested in Brooklyn, New York. The charges against her were serious: trafficking conspiracy, and forced labor conspiracy. Initially, she pleaded not guilty. However, the evidence against her and the inner workings of NXIVM were mounting. Faced with the gravity of the situation, Mack eventually entered into plea negotiations. In April 2019, she changed her plea to guilty on charges of racketeering and racketeering conspiracy. In her statement to the court, she expressed deep remorse and guilt, acknowledging the harm she had caused and the nefarious and emotionally abusive schemes of a twisted man.
Sometimes Allison would be totally fun and like playful, and then other times she would be like a viper and just sort of berate you. And you didn't really know what to expect.
Crucially, Mack decided to cooperate with federal prosecutors. This decision would significantly impact her own fate and the case against Keith Raniere and other NXIVM leaders. She provided detailed information about the inner workings of DOS, exposed the roles of other masters, and even handed over a recording of Raniere discussing the branding ritual. Her cooperation was considered substantial and likely influenced other defendants to also plead guilty. Keith Raniere was eventually convicted in June 2019 and later sentenced to a staggering 120 years in prison. Mack awaited her own sentencing, which finally came in June 2021. Due to her cooperation, prosecutors recommended a lighter sentence. Ultimately, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison along with 3 years of probation, 1,000 hours of community service, and a $20,000 fine. In September 2021, Allison Mack reported to the Federal Correctional Institution in Dublin, California to begin her sentence. The bright-eyed actress who once graced our screens as the beloved Chloe Sullivan was now behind bars, a stark and unsettling fall from grace. Allison Mack served just under 2 years of her 3-year prison sentence. In July 2023, at the age of 40, she was released from the Federal Correctional Institution in Dublin, California. Her early release was undoubtedly a result of her cooperation with the prosecution in the NXIVM case. Her current legal status indicates she is now on probation. Since her release, Mack has largely disappeared from the public eye. She has seemingly made a conscious effort to live a private life, away from the intense scrutiny that surrounded her during the NXIVM scandal and her subsequent trial. Interestingly, some recent reports indicate a significant personal development. In 2025, TMZ published photos allegedly showing Allison Mack marrying a man named Frank in Los Angeles. If true, this marks a new chapter in her life and suggests an attempt to build a future separate from her past. Prior to her involvement with NXIVM, she was married to fellow actress and NXIVM member Nikki Klein, a marriage that was described in court as a sham to assist Klein with immigration. They have since divorced. Before her sentencing, Mack expressed a desire to become a better, kinder woman. Her lawyers also argued in court that she was dedicated to rehabilitation and renouncing Keith Raniere. While the full extent of her personal transformation remains private, her decision to maintain a low profile and, if the reports are accurate, to start a new family suggests a move towards rebuilding her life outside the shadow of NXIVM. The story of Allison Mack is a complex and cautionary one. From the beloved Chloe Sullivan to a key figure in a dangerous cult, her journey took a shocking and unsettling turn.
And, I never really hung out with her, maybe a couple cast dinners and, directed her, and she was really sweet. And,
Yeah,
Yeah, she was always really nice, needed attention. Who doesn't? I know I do. And I can't explain it because knowing Allison for those years and just seeing her on set, and but you never imagine in a million years. That's why I think I neglected sort of to read about it or really. It's like, this can't be. There's got to be something.
Her cooperation with authorities offered a measure of accountability and likely contributed to bringing down Keith Raniere. Now in the aftermath, she faces the challenge of navigating life after prison, attempting to forge a new identity far removed from the darkness of her past. What the future holds for Allison Mack remains to be seen, but her story will undoubtedly serve as a stark reminder that what we see from a celebrity on screen is often a world away from who they are behind closed doors.